This chocolate cheesecake cake is inspired by the Cheesecake Factory's Hershey's chocolate bar cheesecake. It's a rich, creamy chocolate cheesecake set between 2 layers of moist chocolate cake, and it's all covered in a rich chocolate buttercream and chocolate chips. It is perfect for any chocolate lover out there. Hi, I'm Lindsay from Life, Love, and Sugar, and today we're making a chocolate cheesecake cake. So the first thing we'll do is make our cheesecake so that it has time to cool and set in the fridge. We are going to use a 9-inch cake pan that matches the size of our 9-inch cake layers so that everything lines up on the sides when we're frosting our cake. And since it's not a springform pan, we want to line it with some aluminum foil so we can use that to actually lift the cheesecake out of the pan once it has cooled. So I'm going to press this down into my cake pan. And I'll usually trim off the corners because I don't really need the excess. And so I like to start by kind of working it down into the corners so that I know it's not like curved too much down in those corners. All right, so those are really worked down in there, and now I can kind of fold the sides over and press that up against the sides of the pan. All right, and I'm just going to flatten this up against the side to make sure it's as smooth as I can get it. Now we can set this aside while we make our filling. All right, so we're going to start with our room temperature cream cheese and some sugar and our natural unsweetened cocoa powder. Then we'll pop this on our mixer and mix on low speed so that we're not incorporating too much air into our cheesecake until it's all well combined and creamy. Okay, so now we can add our sour cream and some vanilla extract. We'll mix all that together. All right, looking good. Now we can add our melted and slightly cooled chocolate. Mix all this together. All right, so that's looking good. So now we will add our eggs one at a time, mixing until well combined after each. Just gonna give it another stir by hand just to make sure there aren't any bits or pieces stuck down in the bottom. All right, so now we can pour this into our cake pan, and then we'll just spread this evenly in the pan. All right, now we will pop this in our oven, bake it for about 50 minutes, and then do that slow cooling process. So you'll turn off the oven, leave the door closed for 30 minutes, and then crack it for 30 minutes. And then once this is cooled, we can make our cake layers. All right, so once your cheesecake is baked, cooled, chilled, it's time to make your cake layers. We've got our all-purpose flour, natural unsweetened cocoa powder, sugar, a little baking soda, baking powder, and salt. We'll stir all this together. Now we will combine the wet ingredients. The lovely thing is we don't need a mixer this time. So we've got milk, vegetable oil, vanilla extract, and an egg. Now we'll mix all this together. And we'll add our dry ingredients and then combine this. All right, so once that's well combined, you can add your hot water. All right, so now we can add this to our cake pans. I have 2 9-inch cake pans. They're sprayed with nonstick baking spray, and they have some parchment in the bottom so the cakes don't stick. And I actually like to use a food scale to make sure there's the same amount of batter in each one so that they both bake evenly. All right, so now we can bake our cake layers for about 12 to 15 minutes and let them cool. All right, so once your cakes are cool, it's time to make your buttercream. We've got our room temperature butter here. And we're gonna pop this on our mixer and mix it up until it's nice and smooth and creamy. We'll add our cocoa powder. We'll mix this up until it's nice and creamy. Once that's nice and creamy, we can add about half of our powdered sugar. Now I'm gonna add 3 to 4 tablespoons of our heavy cream. Right, now we can add the rest of our powdered sugar. Right now at this point, I'm just going to keep an eye on the consistency of it and keep adding a little more cream as needed until it's the consistency that I want. All right, so I'm just going to mix this up again and make sure there wasn't anything that got missed. As far as consistency goes, you don't want it to be too thick or the chocolate chips that we add on the side of the cake later won't stick. So I just kind of tap it, and if it sticks really nicely to my finger, then it should be a good consistency. If it doesn't, it's probably too thick and you could add more cream. All right, so to put our cake together, Grab a cardboard cake round or even a serving platter, whatever you're going to build your cake and frost it on. And then we'll put our first cake layer down. And then we'll add a cup of buttercream. You want to make sure you push the buttercream all the way to the edges, the nice flat surface to put your cheesecake on. Now we will add our cheesecake layer. You just peel this foil up. Use that to lift your cheesecake out of the pan. You should just be able to peel that right off of your cheesecake. And then we will put this on top of the cake. And then we'll add another cup of chocolate buttercream. All right, now we'll add our final layer of chocolate cake. All right, and now we can frost our cake. You don't need a really thick coat of buttercream on the sides of the cake because you're going to be pressing the chocolate chips up against it. So you just need enough that the chocolate chips will stick. Now we can press our chocolate chips into the side of our cake, and we do want to do that before the buttercream starts to crust or the chocolate chips won't stick to the frosting. I'm using the Ateco 847 tip to pipe a border around the top of our cake. And there you have your final chocolate cheesecake cake. Rich layers of chocolate cake, creamy chocolate cheesecake. It's all so delicious together. It's a showstopper. You are going to love this recipe. For the full recipe, head over to lifeloveandsugar.com.